but attraction's not there for me.
Do you think that'll ever come, or you know?
I'm gonna be honest. Looks-wise, tall tan tats was my thing. I was like, would you get a sleeve or something, or a wee necktie?
I'm a bit conflicted with the dinner party because to me it seems like some of the couples were doing a bit too much. They wanted to be the strongest couple at the first dinner party, and this is why they're going over the top. The kissing, the constant touching and whatever from Davide and Key, I know they have a great connection, but I think they did a bit way too much. And then with Julia Rose, I understand she's got issues with Davin, but I think she as well was trying to go for the empathy tour. She was going for the empathy tour. And then the likes of Anita, I have nothing to say really. I have nothing to say because I think Anita has unrealistic expectations. She came in with a template. This man is not matching a template and she's going to kick off. And Sarah, I'm surprised that nobody humbled her. I'm surprised that none of the participants actually called her out, because they did sort of try and call out Devon and sort of put him in a corner, but nobody called her out for the way she spoke about her husband. But it seems the experts are going to hold her feet to the fire, so I can't wait for that. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight UK, Season 10, Episode 7. So we have the couples. Now everyone has come back from honeymoon, so they are moving into the apartments. Everybody seems excited to be moving in. Obviously, there is one or two couples that feel a bit tense, but everybody else is excited. We have Sarah. Sarah's still unhappy with her match. She's worried about living with Dean and how that's going to make things worse. And it's like, Sarah, you've always been looking for an issue since you walked in. I think Sarah continued on this experiment because she was hoping to see what the other husbands looked like and hoping to see if she could slot herself in with somebody else. Because at the moment, she's very upset. She feels like she's been duped and she hasn't been given what she asked for. Even though production continued to play her clip where she said she was open to anything that was different from her norm, the experts hopefully will have a thing or two to say to her when they meet up with her. Stephen and Nelly, we barely got to see their honeymoon because I think they've been doing very well. And normally when there's no toxicity, production will go to the couples that show toxicity. There was obviously the issue of constant reassurance. Nelly wants constant reassurance because she's had previous partners cheat on her. On his part, what Stephen is saying, I can only give so much reassurance before I think it's enough. And so it's now a matter of Nelly having to work on herself. Otherwise, she's going to lose someone who really likes her or appears to really like her just because he's fed up and he's drained from having to deal with baggage from other relationships. I don't understand why she didn't go to therapy before coming into the experiment. You have Lee and Leah. They are hoping that moving in together, things will change. Leah is right to say she's putting in more of an effort than her wife. Her wife is not putting in as much effort. We've all seen how Lee is always finding an excuse. They spoke about chores and Lee was quick to say, I'm not going to wash your clothes. And it's like, seriously, why do you always have to have something that you complain about? Why can't you just get along just to get along? Why do you always have to find an issue? Julia Rose and Devon, they move in as well. They're having a conversation about their pairing. Obviously, there's still issues. Julia Rose said she's always dated a taller guy. And it's like, you could have told experts that you wanted a tall guy and they would have found your tall guy. If they couldn't find your tall guy, you could have stayed your bottom at home. That's not enough for you to say, oh, he doesn't match me. She said, they have a different outlook on life. Their energy levels are different. So the problem was you had Devon saying that he's hoping to inspire other couples, that they are doing very well. And it's like, I don't think the two of you are doing very well, but I also don't think things are as bleak as, Julia Rose is making them out to be. She needs to be open-minded. There was an attraction on wedding day. There was excitement. What happened to that? Maybe the two of you need to go back to wedding day and sort of see where things went wrong and take it from there. Davide and Key are very happy. Davide and Key are very happy because, they have finally done the deed. And so they're in a very good space. They revealed that they got intimate and they seem very happy and very giddy. They are another couple that we barely got to see their honeymoon because it seemed they were doing very well. And as I've said before, if you're doing well, production is not going to show your relationship. Anita and Paul move into their apartment. There's still tension there. Anita is saying she's not happy to be in the same space with Paul because she feels like he doesn't seem interested in her as his wife. And it's like, Mom, you're too grown for this. You're too grown for this. For you to be throwing a tantrum and saying, I want a separate room, unless he makes you feel uncomfortable, or he's invading your personal space. Otherwise, if it's about the two of you talking, that's not good enough reason for you to say that. She asked him about her children's names. He couldn't remember her children's names, so she then decided she wanted a different room. And it's like she's always wanted a different room. She was looking for a silver fox. She was looking for a man with grey hair, six-pack abs, and drives a motorbike like flies an aeroplane. And that's what she wanted in a partner. And sadly for her, experts did not match her with that, and this is why she's now looking for issues with this connection to see how she can sort of complain and get away from this man and still come out looking like the victim and not the villain. The couples get ready, and obviously they go to the first dinner party, and it's in the cars. You have people having conversations about, who else do you think is coming? Who do you think is going to be in a good space? Who do you think is going to be in a negative space? I was like, I don't like the competition aspect of it. I don't like when people start sort of comparing notes. Sarah, on her part, was telling Dean that no rapping during the dinner party. She doesn't want him to rap at all. She doesn't want him to say anything that's going to make them feel sort of... I think she didn't want to stand out. Although she already had the grievances, she didn't want Dean to say anything that was embarrassing. They were the first couple to walk into the dinner party. They were followed in by Stephen and Nelly, who were followed in by the two boys. You had Davide and Key. They seemed very giddy and excited. You had Merv and Joe walk in. And as soon as Joe walked in, I was worried because the way Sarah started giggling and gidding and laughing and shining all her teeth, you could tell she really liked what she saw. Grace and Ashley walked in. They seemed very happy. They were very formal. It was really cute to see how sort of like they were like a pantomime act about to perform. Sarah started complaining bitterly that, I'm the only one who's not happy in my couple. Everybody else seems happy in their couple. And it's like, please, we really, really, really do not need this. We don't need to hear your two pence. You have already complained enough. Everybody and their mother know that you're not happy with your husband. So I don't know why you continue to want to tell all of us about your couple and how unhappy you are. We had Rebecca and Bailey walk in. They seemed very happy. They're giddy. They're excited. Whatever they did that worked for them, they've really turned a corner. Lee and Leah walked in next. And so people were just sitting around having conversations about their couples to see where they stand. Julia Rose walked in with Dove and she wasn't happy. And then Paul was the last person to walk in. So once the couple sat down, conversation started because everybody wants to know where everyone else stands as a couple. How well are they doing in their couple? Who is not doing very well? Who's doing terribly? Sarah wanted the whole world to know that she was disappointed. She's annoyed. She wanted something different, and Dean is not it. She was asked, but Dean is nice. Dean is different from your former guys that you've dated, but she said she still feels frustrated and sort of annoyed by him and all the things he does. She was criticizing him to everyone with ears to hear. And the experts were not happy with this because they said she's being disrespectful and immature. And it's like, she doesn't see it. She doesn't see it. She thinks she's doing amazing. So whatever everybody else has to say doesn't matter to her because she didn't get what she wanted. Anita, because she walked in alone, the girl sat down with her to have a conversation, and she said, she was upset that Paul didn't know her children's names. And it's like, some people barely know their own children's date of birth. So the idea that you're upset that you didn't know your children's names after a few days, I don't get it. I know Grace tried to be supportive with her, but I wish they'd actually called her out, because at the end of the day, that's not enough reason for you to say, I want to sleep in a different room. She complained bitterly that, he hasn't dated anyone in 15 years, so he's using this as an experiment to see if it's going to work or if it's not. And it's like, I don't get it. I really don't understand it. And then you had Sarah suddenly find her way close to Joe, and she was she started complaining bitterly that, oh, Dean is not what I asked for. He's exactly not what I wanted. So she was asked, what did you want? She said, I wanted tall, tanned, and tattoos. And Joe was there, and Joe was very uncomfortable with it because she was sitting right next to Joe's wife, if I remember very well. And it's like, why would you say that? You're more or less implying that you are what I wanted and not what I got. And I don't understand why nobody told her that you're not the prize and you're not it. Sarah then complained that they don't have chemistry. She was asking and listening out for what everybody else had to say about their couples. The more people spoke about their couples, the more upset she got because she felt like, why is it everybody else has chemistry? Everybody else seems happy. I don't feel like I'm in the best of spaces. And it's like, oh, please, it's not a competition. If you really wanted a nice guy, you would have worked hard on this guy. She complained, oh, he's refusing to get a tattoo. He said he doesn't want a tattoo, not even a sleeve. And it's like, so have you seen what a tattoo looks like when someone gets older? How it looks wrinkled and crinkled and stuff. The idea that you're so stuck and fixated on that, I don't get it. So you have Julia Rose complaining bitterly that she, in her couple, is not happy because her husband is shorter than her and is also trauma dumping. They've been through a lot as children, and so she wants someone with positive energy, someone who's happy, and he seems to always sort of thrive on focusing on the negative. And it's really sad because you have Paul on the other side telling the guys that they're doing very well as a couple, their honeymoon was amazing, they're each other's yin and yang, so he's in this good space. And so when the couple start comparing notes, that's when they realize that actually there is an issue, because what Julia Rose is saying is totally different from what her husband is saying. And so now the issue becomes who is telling the truth. And I think they are more inclined to believe Julia Rose than they are to believe her husband. The problem is Julia Rose, she had they'd had a conversation before they came in, and they'd agreed to walk in together as a united and present a united front. So for her to come in, open up and say all the things that are bad, this now exposes the cracks in their relationship. Julia Rose had to go out at one point because she was crying. She was being consoled by Davide. And she was saying, I'm really not happy. This is not it. We are on different sort of energy wavelengths. And it's like, you're never going to match energy with somebody. That's never going to happen, that you're both going to be hyper. One of you will need to calm the other person down. So the idea that she was crying about that, I didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, the couples are then called to come to the dinner table. Everybody goes to the dinner table. Everybody's excited. At the dinner table, once everyone is sat, Paul sees this as his moment to shine. He decides to rap and have everyone else sort of sing along. I feel like production is the one that encouraged him to do this, because he had been told by his wife that don't do that. So the idea that he would suddenly do it, I don't get it. Paul and Anita sat next to, they sat opposite Ashley and Grace, and they were asked, what is the main problem? You had, the problem with Anita is she has a checklist of things that she wants, and she's not open to learning. She's not open to growing. There was this conversation of, the Ashley and Grace trying to impart some sort of advice from what they've learned from their relationship. But I feel like Anita thrives on sort of explaining her life to people and having people question her and ask her and be very inquisitive. Whereas this man is saying, I don't want to be intrusive. I want you to tell me what you want to tell me. I don't want to appear as though I'm forcing you to say or do anything that you're uncomfortable with. And it's like, oh my God, I don't get it. You had Nelly reveal to the other wives that she had asked her husband if he was attracted to any of the other wives. And it's like the insecurity. Why would you feel the need to do that? Why would you think that's an appropriate question to ask your husband? I don't get it. And I think she needed to go to therapy before she came to this experiment, as I've said before, because she's going to lose out on an amazing guy. And Sarah and Julia Ruth then went outside because they are both unhappy in their relationships. And you had, they were followed out by Rebecca and Joe, and they were sort of asking questions about what has Devon been saying. It seems they are living in a different reality, because what he's telling everybody else is different to what she is telling people. So she then went and confronted him and asked him, why aren't you telling people the truth? And it's like, if these people are not going to help them, then it's pointless for him to be telling them. They need to be telling the experts what's happening in their relationship and get the experts to give them the tools that they need to grow as a couple. I don't know whether this is what she wants or not, or whether she's just doing it for the empathy. You had Dean having a conversation with Lee, with the guys, and sort of saying, I think he was speaking to Leah, and he was saying to her, Sarah said she hasn't dated a fat person. And Leah was asking him, you're not a fat person. What do you mean she's saying you're the fat person? And he said, well, she said she hasn't dated a fat person. So this is where we are. This is where the struggle is. And it's like, I don't think it's anything to do with his weight. I think she just doesn't like him as a person, and this is where they are. So she's looking for anything and everything just to complain about. Anyway, an honesty box comes out, and the couples then get to read. It starts off with Ashley and Grace. The first question is, how far do you think we have come since our wedding day? They both agree that they've made a great progress, because on their wedding day, Ashley was okay, but Grace was spiraling. She could barely find anything positive about this man. She could barely look at him. Then Ashley got to ask Grace, what are my best and worst qualities? And he said, your personality, you have a great personality that's just very infectious, and sort of everyone around you can't help but sort of just enjoy that. The next question was, what's my worst? It was, you jump to conclusions, which she does. We saw how she spiraled at their wedding. And she actually agreed, and she said, that's fair. That's fair, because that is something that I do a lot. Next up was Sarah and Dean. What has been the hardest part for you? And she said the intensity of the experiment. No, she just didn't like her husband. And she's now blaming the intensity of the experiment, but she just didn't like her husband. And she's been looking for an excuse since then. Dean, what do you hope for? And he said he hopes for the connection to grow and the spark to be there, and then for things to continue. And sadly for Sarah, she doesn't see this. For her, this is the end of the road. She's done with this man. She wants to move on. She wants to find somebody else. And as much as he might try, I don't think she is going to be open to sort of doing anything to grow that connection, which is really sad. Next up was Nelly and Stephen. Nelly, can you see yourself falling in love with me? And she said yes, but her biggest fear is she's worried. She more or less implied that she's worried about rejection. She's worried that this man might turn around and say, you're not my cup of tea. This is why she's worried about falling in love with him. And it's like, this is something you can work on if you really like him. It's just a matter of, do you like him or not? Anita and Paul, what 3 things could I do to make this marriage work? She said, you need to listen more, you need to ask questions, and you need to find out about me. And it's like, I get it, but I also don't get it. I think Anita is being a bit too much. And even the girls told her that, you've barely known each other. If it was weeks down the line, then you could complain that he's not interested in getting to know me, but at least give him an opportunity to show that he can grow. She then asked him, are you willing to fight for this marriage? He said, no, I'm not willing to fight, but I'm willing to work with you to make this marriage grow. And so she wanted him just to say fight. That's more or less. Because he said the same thing without saying the same thing, so I didn't get the big deal. Davide and Key, how did you feel when you turned around and you saw me? And walking down the aisle, and he said there was an instant spark. You had Key say, he feels safe, he feels seen, he feels comfortable around Davide. I like them as a couple, and I hope they don't burn out. I really hope they don't burn out, because I think they were doing a bit too much. They told everyone they've been physically intimate, so hey, maybe that's why. Leah and Lee, do you like me more than I like you? Leah said, yeah, she's moving faster, and she thinks that, she more or less implies she's putting in more of an effort in this connection. Lee, on her part, Lee is just a waste of space. Lee is used to princess treatment, that's it. Stephen and Merv, how do you feel about me? He said he's growing feelings for her. He likes her more and more every day. And their connection has grown since they first met one another, which they were both excited about. How do you, Julia Rose, how do you think I feel about our marriage? Well, he reveals that the honeymoon was stressful. It was very challenging for the two of them. And she must not feel happy about it, because she's had to face a lot of challenges in this situation. Everybody was surprised, because this wasn't what he was telling them all. What is one thing you would change about me? She said she would change his outlook on life. She would want him to match her energy. She said it's very negative. And it's like, oh my God, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too much. But hopefully the experts are able to help them. them. Bailey and Rebecca, who is the strongest couple? They said Nelly and Stephen. Do I think so? I think they were just trying to reassure Nelly. And then, which is the weakest? They said Paul and Anita and Julia, Ruth and Davin. No, I think they were trying to protect, what's his name? Dean's feelings. Otherwise, Dean is in the weakest couple, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 6. Bye, everyone.